Well, hello there, friends and family. So good to see you again today. Yeah, we're out here taking a walk, checking on a few things. Pardon me, I threw on the same clothes from yesterday. They weren't smelling too bad. Maybe some of y'all do that too. Wear same clothes next day. Yeah, the old country engineer, being a bachelor and that, I'll do that on occasion. So pardon me. Anyway, what are we talking about today? Well, I was out here looking at things, snacking on some blueberries, checking on my figs, which are still producing, my plants and whatever, and you can probably see it's highly overcast. And that, the kitties are out and about, and I can see Cleo scurrying across from the neighbors. Spooky and Speedy, of course, that steps like normal. So I was out here checking things, and I don't know if y'all caught my last video. It was about, long-term food storage. Very long-term. What I refer to as the end of all times as we know it. In number 10 cans. And reasons for my decisions, and why I have it, where I have it, in a couple of different locations. So, like always, I read every comment. If you get a heart from me, which you will, unless I have to remove your comment for whatever it means, and I'm pretty lenient about that, unless you get nasty towards the community, to myself or family. I really do try to respect everybody's opinions, beliefs, and ideas. Like I said, as long as they're not violent or vicious. And that. Sometimes I get criticized for that. But I am a true proponent of freedom of speech. Like I say, as long as it's not hateful or violent. But anyway, as I was out here walking around with the kitty crew, and that, Cleo, come on over and see us. Cleo. Cleo's wandering over, wants to say hi. I don't think she's seen you in a while. Come on, Cleo. Come over and say hi, baby. They all love you. Cleo. You with your papa? Oh, don't get me now. Your claws are like razors, okay? Always glad to have you here with Papa. Woo, that storm front coming in. Yep, got rain coming. It's cool. Got us a little bit of breeze, maybe a few gusts of wind, don't we? Papa loves you. You my queen? Well, you the queen of the outside, aren't you? You're Speedy the princess. So as you can see, Cleo's here with me. Spooky and Speedy, they're not far off. Trust me, they're not. So getting back to the subject. I sort of lost my train of thought. That's how it is when you get older. But anyway, like I was saying, I read all the comments. Give hearts. Just to, let you know I read them. That's how I also keep track of how I read them. But there were a couple of questions that came up that I want to address today. Two really important ones. So since I'm out here, checking on what little bit I have going on this year, and now I think if you did watch that video, you understand in part why, old Mr. Tom ain't gardening and canning and freezing and doing all that in great earnest. I got the food covered for me and the kitty crew. So, one of the things that came up many times was, or statements. Sometimes it was more of a statement than it was a question, was, why would you even want to survive? after such a cataclysmic event. You know, well, I thought long and hard about that last night, and when I read some more this morning, I also thought hard about it. And I thought I'd address that now. You see, I made a decision a long time ago, and Lord knows I look at this in great detail. And I don't want to get into all the Armageddon scenarios, but I truly believe that some will survive. There will be areas in the U.S. as well as all over the world that will come through it. Another reason I made the decision I made, as I call it, is strive to survive, is because, you know, excuse me, some blueberries. Oh yeah. Spooky, you're on my feet again. Is, you know, I'm a curious sort. I want to be able to see, if at all possible, maybe it's not, what it will be like. What will be the outcome? What will be left? Because truly, nobody knows. Why? We've never went through anything like that. We've went through natural disasters, you know. I've been through massive tornado outbreaks, and I don't mean they were close to me. They wiped out my neighborhood. And it wasn't only once. I mean, we've had 2 tornadoes come across this place right here. Thank God, for whatever reason, they lifted up off the ground and they became airborne. Now, they did prune the trees some on their way across, and of course took out the power lines and all of that. And we survived. We were without power for quite some time. We surely were. And I had to be prepared for that. You know? And those are all the things you got to think about. No power. Debit card, credit cards don't work. Hence, you need to have some cash stuck back. Small bills. Then, I mean, grocery stores and all that couldn't be stocked. In the tornado outbreak up in North Alabama in '74, it would take weeks to even get up into our community. There were so many trees down on all the roads. So, granted, there was no way to go get food, no way to go get anything. What you had was what you had for weeks on end. And the same is true during hurricanes, especially the massive ones, like the one we saw last year run over Louisiana and virtually destroy it. And the same was true with Andrew, and there's been so many others. Camille. My memory fades, but when those type of events happen, the communities that are affected are basically totally destroyed, sometimes wiped off the face of the earth. And that. And yeah, even then, like we saw last year in Louisiana, there were places that weren't touched a bit that was in the path of that hurricane. There were other places severely damaged. Others had moderate damage. You know, it's strange how all that happens. Same thing happens with tornadoes. So, I look at the same way in major apocalyptic terms. Let us say nuclear war. I thoroughly believe there will be pockets, not only this country, but other countries across the globe, that will survive. Yeah, people say there'd be a nuclear winter. There may well be. Who knows? Nobody really knows. It's all, right now, a hypothesis. Based on, current scientific knowledge, it's probable. But that doesn't stop the wealthy, the elite, or our governments from stockpiling food, supplies, medicines, everything you can imagine, so they can try to survive. How long would an event like that last? I really have no clue. I'm not sure anybody does. One thing I did see that I marveled at was how fast last year, when everything pretty much came to a standstill and shut down worldwide, or the vast majority of it did. I have not seen blue skies like I saw last year since I was a child. And I even commented about that on videos I made and showed them to you. No, I mean, our skies have got to be a pale blue. But there was a time and a period last year where they were a vivid blue, the likes of which I've not seen, like I said, since my childhood. It amazed me how fast the earth was reclaiming its environment. Of course, nobody wanted to admit that, because here again it goes against the agenda that's out there. That being climate change, for whatever reason. It's not that I'm not a believer in climate change. I know climate changes. As to why it's changing, I spent a lot of time looking into that, and I still can't put my finger on who's right and who's wrong. So I just gave up. It's out of my hands. I'll leave it in God's. I do my part, I don't consume a lot. I don't drive a lot. I only do what I need to do, and I go from there. See, that's all I can do. But back to surviving. The way I looked at it was, people survive. An EF5 tornado. People survive Cat 5 hurricanes, even though they've been run slap over. Those areas do rebuild. They do come back. And yes, it takes time. So in my thought, I thought, well, if nothing more, I want to strive to survive to see the outcome. You see, you got time once you see the outcome to decide whether you just ain't gonna deal with this. You've had enough. It ain't worth living anymore. Especially at my age now, at which point I can just sit down like Native Americans used to do. They'd wander off in the woods or the tundra or wherever. They'd just sit down, they'd meditate and what have you, and they'd just fade away and die. Yeah, they surely would. There'll always be time to make that decision to die. And that's how I think about things as far as surviving these type of events. And I've been through some horrific ones during the course of my life, and I'm still here. And I'll be the first to tell you, I am shocked. I truly am. There's been times in my life I don't see how in the world I came through it. But then, when it was all said and done, I did things that helped the situation, improved my chances of survival. But I also know God, my Father, He was the deciding factor And I know many of y'all say I leave it in God's hands. Well, I leave the final outcome in His hands. But I also know in His teachings, He expects us to do everything we can too. You know, I can remember back as a child, a pastor once said, you know, he used this store where a man laid across some railroad tracks. He was going to test his faith. And he said if God wished him to live, He'd stop the train. Well, as you might suspect, the train ran slap over him, and he died. And that gets back to, thou shalt not tempt God. You don't want to put him in that position. You know? And there have been times in my life where I was literally clawing for my life with my fingernails. And did I pray? Oh yeah, you bet. But once I prayed, I didn't just lay down and say I'm done. No, until my very last breath, until unconsciousness took over me, I was fighting. And I was really shocked later when I awakened. Yeah. And I'm no hero. And I'm no saint. I go under the plan that I have made to be a better person today than I was yesterday. And that's been my plan all of my life. Sometimes I succeed. Other times I fail. You know, that's all the part about being human, right? So, it just is simple to me. I'm going to do everything I can to strive to survive. What I can't do, I am going to leave in God's hands. But in the end, if there's any way possible, I want to be here to see the final outcome. And you know what that outcome might be? To just take who survived and who's worthy and lift them up and bring them home. Or you may be the ones to restart a better humanity. Think about that. Cleo, you hear those rumblings? Yep, we got a storm coming. You love that kid caboodle too, all of you do. You better thank Hawkeye. He took care of you. Didn't he? It's okay, sweetie. Papa loves you. Your fans and viewers love you. They worry about you every time they don't see you. If and when, and I don't want to freak anybody out, because that was another thing that sort of saddened me. Some people said, well, now I'm worried. Mr. Tom has been preparing. That was not what the intent of the video was. No. I've always prepared. And the way I've looked at my preparations, sometimes I've had more, sometimes less, sometimes none. There's been 2 or 3 times in my life where I've had to forage in the woods. I've had to, back then they didn't call it dumpster diving. Let us say, you know, I went out and got food that, you know, was no longer on the shelves. Yeah, I did. Because I didn't have nothing to put back. And that taught me a great lesson too. So, I look at food, along with any other preparations, as being insurance. You know? We all have what? Car insurance, medical insurance, life insurance, home insurance, property insurance. Oh, we have insurance on our boats, our RVs, you know? And we get that to protect ourselves in the case something happens, which we all hope and we pray we'll never have to use. We still write the checks, still pay with our debit cards or credit cards, monthly, semi-annually or what have you, every year, every year, every year. I've had home insurance on this house for going on 26 years. I've only ever made one small claim. I think I got $200 for it. But I just today sent the money off for the remainder of this year into next year. Home insurance. Yeah. And home insurance ain't cheap no more. Oh my God. It has went way up in my area. I can't even believe how much home insurance is down around the coast or in Florida. Why? Because of all the destruction and devastation from the hurricanes. And I'm sure this year when home insurance is renewed in places like Louisiana, they're going to be crying. Yep. Because it happened here, and it's happened all throughout Florida, Georgia, Mississippi. It's just the way of things. But I pay those insurance just in case the worst case scenario happens. And that's what I want y'all to think about food as. You can put it in mason jars, you can can it yourself, that's great stuff. You can buy wet pack canned goods, good stuff. I know it'll last way longer than the best buy date on the can. Why? Because I've ate it. I've ate it 8 years old. I'm still here to talk to you. Yeah, I understand nutrition's a little less, but it still looked fine. It still smelled fine, and it was still tasty. I still buy some box stuff, not as much as I used to, because that stuff can go south or north, as I call it, way quicker than you would imagine, or way quicker than I imagined when I finally remembered when I bought it. So, I think I've talked enough about survival. And people felt bad. Some people felt bad because, they can't have all that stuff. They're on fixed incomes like me now. And God bless each and every one of you. I understand the struggle. But understand this, and I think I said it in the video, most of it, the great percentage of, was bought while I was still working. And I worked a lot of hours, a lot of overtime, and I spent that money rather than watching it devalued in the bank on stuff of that nature, which I spent some time this morning comparing the prices for what I paid for stuff back, 10, 11, 12 years ago to what it is now. Oh, it's 3, 4, sometimes 6 times as much. So hey, if indeed I wanted to sell it, because it's all got, more than half of its life in it, and beyond, I'm sure I could make a pile of money. But no, see, it's worth way more than the money I could make. The other issue that came up with several of my close viewers was, I should take the video down because people will figure out where it's at. Good luck. I'm not stupid. I understand the concern. And I guess if you were really diligent and you wanted to draw a circle around me within what I would say would be reasonable driving distance, and just count how many areas actually show up, and then there's ones that don't because they're too small. And that, you might possibly stumble across it. And secondly, then there's all the tens of thousands and thousands of units you'd have to go through just to find that one. And then thirdly, here again, this gets back So I try to cover all bases. Should somebody cut the locks, if they could, and I'm sure they could with acetylene torch, other than that, good luck with titanium, then I'm immediately alerted. And I do mean immediately. And I'm coming. Now, say, well, you know, if it's quite some distance off, it takes 20, 30 minutes to get there. They'll be they better be slinging it. Because I'm coming hard. And I'm not coming to pat you on the head and say, good boy. No. And I'm bringing a friend. So, I'm not all too concerned about that either. Just put y'all's minds at ease. There's always the possibility somebody would find it, and then where would I be? See, there's all kinds of possibilities out there. You know? Always. Whether I showed what was in there on the video or not. There's all kinds of possibilities. And I would like to think I've done my job to prepare the best I can for the most possibilities. But I'm sure I've left something out. Almost certain. But you know what? That gets back to the strive to survive. If I don't strive to survive, you know, I won't learn from my mistakes. I won't be sitting there on the edge of the steps to the bunker going, you know, it would be real nice right now to have some Skittles. I'm just saying. A little levity there. So, that's why I came out today, just to give you my thoughts on where my mind was when I did the video, and to address the survival issue and why I do strive to survive. And that's how I look at it. And I've always said that. That's what I've taught my kids. That's what my parents taught me, my grandparents, and my great-grands. You know, you got to consider, my grandparents, my great-grandparents survived the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl, one of the worst times in American history. I mean, there was food, not quite as much. People didn't have no money to buy it. Then my grandparents were actually starting a family, or had, right at the onset of it. Imagine that. Yeah. Yeah. My grandparents would go into the Depression with 2 children, and during the course of it would wind up with 4. Times were tough. But see, they survived, they persevered, and they learned from it. My parents, growing up in that era, also survived and learned from it. And all 3 of those generations would be forever changed in how they lived their lives, the actions they took, and what they did until they died. And I'm the 4th generation. I also was affected because my parents lived in preparation for another Great Depression. And they instilled that by teaching me, educating me. And I'm sure this is true about most of my viewers, because we just a bunch of old folk. Yep, we're the last of the baby boomers. And you know what? Ain't gonna be too long. That will just be a footnote in the books. And that'll be okay. But until that final entry into the book, I'm still going to be striving to survive. So I hope you'll take all this as I intend. Do what you can with what you got. Don't panic. No. The video wasn't put out that there's something imminent on the horizon. I have no crystal ball. I have no high level government secret friends I can't share, or a bunch of military people I know that also can't share. I'm not getting emails, super secret, that I can't share. You know, the list goes on and on. You know, with people who, you know, and the world's coming tomorrow. We'll let the music get by before we return to the video. But he did have some good beat there. He was jamming. Anyway. You know, when things like that happen, I just lose my whole train of thought. Sure sign I'm getting old. But like I said, don't panic. No. Panic does no one no good. Learn. Get skills. Get what you can with what you got. You know. If all of you guys rice and beans, well, I'm here to tell you, you can survive. It's going to get boring. But here again, how bad do you want it? You see, I'm hoping and praying. And I talked to God about this many times, that, you see, if he created the world, should anything cataclysmic happen, with a wave of his hand, he can start it all anew. Remember that. Yep. That's why I want to be here to see how it all ends. And I hope many of y'all do too. And along the way, or the ride as I call it, enjoy the times that you can. Enjoy being out here, sitting outside, enjoying the cooler weather when it's available. Enjoying your fur friends, your family, your friends, your loved ones. Enjoy the quiet times in the still of the night while nature sings to you. Enjoy the sound of rain. Enjoy good food and cooking, canning and preserving, with good friends, family and loved ones too, if you can. So, I hope this answers a couple of questions on the last video. You know, I think it was important. I think it's important to instill into people, you just can't lay down and give up. No. Laying down and giving up is a sure way to die. But as long as you're clawing, as long as you're putting the effort in, I truly believe you'll have a power higher than us, more mightier than us, right there behind you, egging you on. So until I see y'all on the next video, because we're starting to get some sprinkling rain out here, y'all take care out there. Be safe. May God bless you as you bless others. Yep. Until I, Cleo, Spooky and Speedy, which are out running like crazies all around the yard, see you on the next video. Okay? I saw a couple of pigs I'm going to try to snatch. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm going to beat the birds. Now I'm happy. Ooh, yes, baby. That's a nice one. Oh, that'll be yummy tonight. Oh my. There's another one. You get him too. Or her. I wonder if pigs are male or female. I'm thinking they're female. Those will be my little dessert tonight. Maybe with some orange slices. That's what I'm thinking. Oh, let's go in and check on Gracie, okay?